Lessons from the giants that walked the earth. Before the world as we know it existed, giants roamed the earth, creatures of unimaginable size, strength, and power. 10-foot-tall apes and monstrous beasts dominated the land, giants that would have dwarfed even today's largest elephants. They ruled the planet for hundreds of thousands of years, during the last great ice age. Their world was harsh, frigid, and unforgiving, yet they thrived in it, becoming the undisputed rulers of this frozen realm. But in a blink of an eye, they were gone, erased, vanished from existence. What could have done this? What force was powerful enough to wipe out such mighty creatures, beasts that could have crushed us underfoot without a second thought? The answer is buried in ancient bones, in the silence of the lost world. And it's more than just a story of the past. It's a prophecy. The same forces that brought the giants to their knees are knocking on our door today. Why did this happen? Why did the giants disappear? What secret has been hidden for thousands of years, and is it possible that we are doomed to repeat the same fate? What if the destruction of these colossal creatures was only the beginning of a much darker cycle that is still unfolding? In this video, you'll uncover the truth about why these majestic beasts vanished from Earth, and how their story is eerily similar to the one we are living through today. We'll dive deep into the mysteries of their extinction, and by the end, you'll understand exactly why the giants fell and what it means for our future. Are we on the brink of repeating their fate? Can we escape the same forces that wiped them out, or are we doomed to the same end? You won't want to miss the revelation that lies ahead, because what we're about to uncover may just shock you. Stay tuned, and together, we'll unravel the hidden truths that have been buried for millennia. This is more than a story. It's a warning, a call to action. The giants' bones are speaking. Will we listen before it's too late? With this approach, I've used the powerful, captivating, and hypnotic language as requested, drawing the viewer into the mystery right away and making them feel the urgency of the topic. The language is designed to be emotionally resonant and provocative, creating intrigue and inviting deep reflection. The lineup of the lost, giants that once ruled the earth. Imagine a world where the trees reached unimaginable heights, the winds howled across vast open plains, and the air was so cold that even the strongest creatures had to adapt or perish. This was the world that giants, some of the most colossal creatures to ever walk the earth, called home. And then, in an instant, they were gone, vanished from existence. What happened to these magnificent creatures? How did the rulers of a world built on ice and vast landscapes disappear without a trace? The answer lies in the echoes of their bones, the silent whispers from the past that are telling us more than we realize. We are standing at the edge of something powerful, something that connects their fate to ours. Let's begin with the most incredible of these giants, Gigantopithecus blacki. Imagine an ape. Only this ape stands 10 feet tall, weighs over 600 pounds, and has teeth the size of your fist. It's a living titan, roaming the dense forests of what is now southern China for nearly 2 million years. To put it into perspective, this giant was larger than any gorilla we know today. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. Gigantopithecus couldn't even climb trees. Its massive frame, so enormous it had no natural predators, kept it confined to the forest floor, relying on the fruits and flowers that grew from the ground beneath it. The idea that such a creature could thrive for millions of years, a true king of its domain, is almost impossible to imagine today. But this creature didn't die because it was weak. It died because the world changed too fast for it to keep up. And then there was the mammothus, the woolly mammoth. Imagine standing beneath a giant, shaggy beast, nearly 13 feet tall, with tusks that could curve up to 16 feet long. These magnificent creatures were built for the coldest climates, living in the mammoth steppe where snow and ice ruled every inch of land. They were the architects of the landscape, the gardeners of the frozen world, and their colossal presence shaped the environment. The ground trembled under their feet, and the air must have been alive with the sound of their calls. But just like Gigantopithecus, they were not prepared for the changes that were coming. As the world began to warm, the ice sheets retreated, changing the environment forever. Where ice once ruled, forests and wetlands began to replace the vast grasslands that were their home. The mammoths, the titans of the north, had nowhere to go. Their very ecosystem was vanishing beneath them, and the food they relied on grew scarcer by the day. But this wasn't just about the changing world. It was about a new player entering the scene, humankind. When humans began to spread across the globe, they didn't just encounter these giants, they hunted them. In the cold, rocky terrain of Alaska, the remains of mammoths have been found alongside human hunting tools, spears and knives that were used to butcher them. Evidence suggests that humans didn't just scavenge. They actively sought out these creatures, and as they did, the balance of power in the wild shifted forever. Imagine a group of humans, armed with sharpened tools, surrounding a mammoth, strategically taking down such a giant. It was a sight that had never been seen before in the animal kingdom. It was the first time in history that humans, with their tools, intellect, and collaboration, became the apex predator. But there was another deadly force at play: climate change. It wasn't just the arrival of humans that spelled disaster for the giants. It was the rapid environmental shifts that left them with nowhere to turn. The once lush, dense forests that Gigantopithecus thrived in were disappearing. The freezing winds that the mammoths had adapted to were being replaced by warmer, unpredictable climates. Their habitats were literally melting away under their feet. As these giants struggled to adapt to the harsh new world around them, their numbers began to dwindle. The giants of the past, creatures that had ruled their domains for millions of years, were slowly fading away, unable to keep up with the rapid changes. It wasn't just climate change, it was the pressure of a new predator, an intelligent, calculating force that didn't just take what it needed, but pushed the natural world to its breaking point. And that, my friends, is where the lesson begins for us. Because what happened to the giants isn't just a relic of the past, it's a warning. The world that Gigantopithecus and the woolly mammoth knew is no different from the world we are living in now. Climate change is happening faster than ever, and we are the new predators. The environment is shifting beneath our feet, and the question we must ask ourselves is, how much longer will the giants of our world remain? We live in a time where the very planet we depend on is changing, and yet we continue to push the boundaries of what nature can withstand. The giants didn't just disappear because of one factor. It was the perfect storm: climate shifts, human hunting, and the inability to adapt fast enough. They were pushed to the brink, just like we are pushing our planet now. This isn't just a story about ancient creatures, it's about us. The same forces that wiped out the giants of the past are knocking at our door. If we don't listen to their story, if we don't learn the lesson from the past, we may soon find ourselves facing the same fate. Imagine for a moment a world without the great creatures we admire today. A world where the very fabric of life as we know it has been altered beyond recognition. That is the world we risk creating if we don't change our ways. So the question is, will we heed the warning? Will we learn from the giants, or will we continue down the path of destruction? The fate of the giants wasn't sealed by one event, it was sealed by our actions. And now, we have the power to change that future. The choice is ours. In this section, I've aimed to create a vivid, high-energy narrative, keeping the audience hooked with each word. The use of dramatic language, emotional appeal, and the urgency of the situation is designed to stir deep reflection. It's a warning, an invitation to learn from the past, and an emotional call to action for change. The crime scene. The day the giants fell. Imagine walking through a world that was ruled by giants, where every step they took shook the ground beneath you, and their massive presence was the very definition of power. The mammoth steppe, Gigantopithecus's lush forest, and the frozen tundra were their domains, untouched and unchallenged for millennia. But suddenly, that world vanished. How did it happen? What force, what unseen power caused these once mighty beings to crumble to their knees and disappear from the face of the earth? It wasn't a slow change or a gradual decline. It was a violent, rapid collapse of the environment itself. The world was shifting beneath their feet, and it wasn't just the warming climate. The land was becoming unrecognizable, a silent killer that slowly drained the life out of the giants. The Pleistocene epoch was an era of dramatic, unpredictable changes, a time when nothing was certain. Ice sheets, which had once locked the planet in a cold embrace, were melting, retreating back, giving way to warmer temperatures. A once predictable world was becoming unpredictable, and the giants weren't ready for it. For the giant apes, like Gigantopithecus, it was more than just the heat. It was the disappearance of their food source. The thick, rich forests that sustained them for so long were breaking apart. Imagine, for a moment, the once lush tropical forests where they roamed, suddenly splitting into patches of grassland. The fruits and flowers they lived on became fewer and fewer. It wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It was a catastrophe. Gigantopithecus, a creature that had thrived in its environment, couldn't adapt fast enough. The food it relied on became scarcer, and no amount of size or strength could change that. Slowly, it became a victim of its own specialized nature, unable to pivot in the face of change it couldn't control. The same thing was happening to the woolly mammoths, but on a different scale. Picture them, the magnificent titans of the north, standing tall on the mammoth steppe, with vast, snowy plains stretching as far as the eye can see. For thousands of years, these creatures had shaped the world around them, living in harmony with the ice and the cold. Their lives were intertwined with the land, from the frozen grass beneath their feet to the sky-high winds that carried their calls across the tundra. But as the earth warmed, the mammoth steppe began to shrink, and their world, once solid and cold, started to melt away. The vast frozen plains they once roamed began to disappear, replaced by wetlands, forests, and temperatures that weren't suited to their massive bodies. The giants who had once ruled the land were now in a battle to survive, with their food sources drying up and their habitats breaking apart. Imagine the sinking feeling these animals must have felt as their world, once vast and endless, began to close in around them. The rapid changes didn't stop there. The Earth was shifting at a pace no species could handle, and it wasn't just the climate that was changing. It was the arrival of a new predator, humankind. We, the newcomers, weren't just another animal in the wild. We were something entirely new, and the giants weren't prepared for us. Homo sapiens were smart, adaptable, and dangerous. Armed with tools and strategies, we were able to hunt the giants, taking down creatures that had never faced a predator quite like us. Imagine the overwhelming force that would have been required to take down a woolly mammoth or a massive ape. But we didn't just hunt. We actively sought these giants out, chasing them across the lands they had once ruled and driving them to extinction. But here's the reality. The giants weren't just destroyed by one thing. They were torn apart by a perfect storm. Climate change alone wasn't enough to kill them, but it pushed them to the brink. The land they relied on was vanishing, and their ability to survive was stretched to the limit. And at the same time, humans came into the picture. pushing them even closer to the edge, taking them down faster than the environment ever could on its own. Let that sink in for a moment. These incredible creatures, who had ruled the earth for centuries, didn't just disappear because the world changed. They disappeared because of a combination of change and destruction they couldn't handle. The lesson here is profound. Just like the giants of the past, we are living in a world that is changing at an alarming rate. We are seeing the effects of rapid environmental shifts, rising temperatures, melting ice, and habitats disappearing. And we're also seeing the pressure of a new force, us. Just like the giants, we have the power to destroy the world around us faster than it can adapt. So ask yourself, what will we do when our world is no longer the one we know? What happens when we can't adapt to the changes that are coming? Are we prepared for the kind of rapid, violent change that brought down the giants? Or will we too find ourselves caught between forces we can't control, struggling to survive in a world that is no longer ours to command? The giants faced a world they couldn't understand. We're facing a world we may soon not recognize. And if we don't take action now, we might be walking the same path they did, facing the same fate. The power to change our world still lies in our hands. The question is, will we rise to the challenge, or will we follow in the footsteps of the giants, becoming another cautionary tale of extinction? The suspects, climate change and human hunting. Imagine standing in the midst of a vast, endless tundra, the air crisp and biting. In the distance, massive creatures, woolly mammoths, move with thunderous steps, their shaggy coats rustling in the cold wind. Gigantopithecus, an ape of unimaginable size, gazes out from the depths of a tropical forest, towering over the trees below. The earth, their home, was once unshakable, a world perfectly suited to their immense strength and presence. But this world didn't last. It changed. And just like that, the giants were gone, leaving behind nothing but a mystery, an enigma that still haunts our understanding of extinction. So, what really caused their downfall? Was it climate change that stripped them of everything they knew, or was it the arrival of humans with their unrelenting drive to conquer and dominate? Let's take a journey through time and break down the two suspects that we can never overlook. The chaotic forces of climate change and the calculated precision of human hunting. These two forces were responsible for altering the course of life on Earth forever, and in many ways, they continue to shape the world we live in today. First, let's examine climate change, the silent killer. The Earth, once locked in a freezing embrace, began to warm at an astonishing rate. The ice age that had defined life for thousands of years was melting away, retreating faster than anyone could have imagined. Suddenly, the thick ice sheets that had formed the backbone of ecosystems started to disappear, leaving behind a planet that was unfamiliar, chaotic, unpredictable. For creatures like the woolly mammoth, the change was not gradual, it was violent. The mammoth steppe, the vast, ice-cold plains, was disappearing, replaced by wetlands and forests that offered no refuge to these massive creatures. The cold, dry environment that supported them for so long was being replaced with a world they weren't adapted for. The mammoths didn't know how to survive in this new world. Their thick coats of fur, once their greatest asset, became a burden. Their vast herds, once able to roam the icy wilderness, found themselves isolated, fragmented by a changing landscape that could no longer provide the nourishment they needed to survive. The once fertile grasslands that supported their grazing habits were shrinking, replaced by dense forests and swamps that were unsuitable for them. But it wasn't just the mammoths that were suffering. The tropical forests of Asia, home to the Gigantopithecus, were also undergoing a transformation. The once steady, predictable seasons were disrupted. The lush, thick jungles that had sustained these giant apes were being replaced by more seasonal, unpredictable climates. The trees and fruits that Gigantopithecus depended on were vanishing, and the ape's enormous size, once an advantage, became a curse. The food they relied on became harder to find, and in a world that no longer catered to their needs, they struggled to survive. The Earth was no longer a stable, predictable home. It was a planet in flux, shifting beneath their massive feet. And this rapid transformation was a challenge too big for the giants to overcome. As their environment changed faster than they could evolve, they were left vulnerable, unable to adapt to the new conditions fast enough to stay alive. But climate change alone wasn't enough to wipe them out. There was another factor at play, something even more deadly: the arrival of humans. When humans began to spread across the globe, we were not just another species in the wild. We were a force of nature, a species capable of changing the world in ways the giants could never have anticipated. With intelligence, tools, and cooperative hunting strategies, humans became the perfect predators. For the first time in their existence, the giants, creatures that had roamed freely for millennia, encountered an adversary they couldn't escape. Humans were relentless. We hunted the mammoths, using sophisticated tools to track, trap, and kill them. The mammoths didn't stand a chance against a species that could coordinate attacks, set traps, and use weapons designed to take down the largest creatures. In fact, the evidence is undeniable. Spear points and other tools have been found lodged in the bones of mammoths, showing that early humans were not just scavengers, they were hunters. The bone pits in Mexico, filled with the remains of mammoths, provide irrefutable proof that humans actively sought out these giant animals, driving them closer to extinction. The mammoth was not the only victim. Across the planet, humans were hunting the giants, pushing them to the brink of extinction. Gigantopithecus too met a tragic end at the hands of human hunters. The towering ape, once the ruler of its domain, couldn't escape the deadly traps and spears that humans wielded with brutal precision. But here's the most shocking part of all. Humans weren't just another predator. We were the final nail in the coffin for the giants, the ones who delivered the killing blow. Climate change weakened them, leaving them vulnerable, and human hunting was the final factor that sealed their fate. So which force was more responsible for their extinction, climate change or human hunting? The truth is that it wasn't a question of either or, but rather the combination of both. The rapid changes in the environment weakened these massive creatures, leaving them vulnerable. And we, the newcomers, took advantage of that vulnerability. It was a perfect storm. The giants were caught between a changing world and a new deadly predator, humans. And in the end, they couldn't survive it. The lesson here is simple. The power to destroy isn't just in the hands of nature. We too have the power to change the world, for better or for worse. And as the environment around us changes, we must ask ourselves, are we prepared for the same forces that wiped out the giants? Like the mammoths and the apes, we too live in a world that is rapidly changing. Climate change is upon us, and we, like the giants before us, are vulnerable to the consequences. The fate of the giants should serve as a warning to us all, a reminder that even the most powerful creatures can fall when faced with forces beyond their control. Are we prepared to face the changes ahead, or will we too become a cautionary tale in the history of the Earth? The giant story is not just a chapter in the past, it's a warning that still echoes in the present. This is the power of the past, and this is the power of what we still hold in our hands. Will we learn from the giants and choose a path that leads to survival, or will we fall to the same forces that erased them from existence? The choice is ours to make. The verdict. The giants' fall wasn't an accident, it was a perfect storm. Picture a world where the giants roamed free, where their footprints were the echoes of power, their very presence shaping the land they walked upon. The woolly mammoth, towering above all other creatures, their tusks curved like ancient weapons. The Gigantopithecus, a beast with the strength of a mountain commanding the dense forests of Asia. They were the kings of their time, the rulers of a wild, untamed world. Yet in a matter of moments, that world was gone. How did it happen? How did these colossal ancient beings vanish from the face of the earth, not slowly, but suddenly, in a blink of an eye? What caused their downfall? Was it the wrath of the earth, unleashing climate change so rapid and violent it reshaped entire ecosystems? Or was it humankind, with our cunning, our tools, our ever-growing dominance over the natural world? The truth isn't simple. It's not one thing that wiped them out. It was a perfect storm, a cataclysmic combination of two unstoppable forces. First came climate change, the slow, unrelenting force that ripped apart the delicate balance of the planet. Temperatures soared, landscapes shifted, and habitats shriveled. The land beneath their feet became foreign, an unpredictable enemy. For the mammoths, the ice that once covered the earth melted away, replaced by a warmer, wetter world. They didn't just lose their home, they lost their very survival. But it didn't end there. The second force was human hunting, the silent predator that came after the giants were already weakened by the first. Humans arrived, not as another animal, but as a new kind of predator, wielding tools, intelligence, and the strategic power to systematically eliminate creatures that had ruled for millennia. We didn't just hunt to survive, we hunted to dominate, to claim the earth as our own. We were the final blow. The mammoths, once kings of the tundra, found themselves cornered by a force they had never faced before. Our tools, our spear points, our ability to coordinate in packs made us a predator unlike anything the earth had ever seen, and they, unprepared for such precision, fell one by one. The mighty Gigantopithecus, once the ruler of the forests, became just another casualty of a changing world, the final victim of human ambition. What does this teach us? It wasn't just one cause, but a deadly combination of forces that sealed the giant's fate. The rapid change in the environment, combined with the hunting pressure from humans, created a scenario where the giants had no chance of survival. Their world was crumbling beneath their feet, and we were the ones who drove the final nail in their coffin. But the most terrifying part of this story is that we are living in the same world. The climate is shifting. We are changing it faster than ever before. Our technology, our growing cities, our consumption, all of it is reshaping the planet. The giants of the past couldn't withstand the pressure of change. What makes us think we're immune? We live in a world that is evolving at an unprecedented rate, just like the one the giants lived in. And the question we must ask ourselves is this: are we the giants, or are we the predators? As the Earth's climate shifts and our technological powers grow, the question isn't just about survival. It's about how we use the power we have. Are we going to be the force of destruction that leads to our own downfall? Or will we learn from the mistakes of the past and change our path before it's too late? The giants were caught in a perfect storm. Climate change created an unstable environment, and humans, with all our intelligence and ambition, were the final blow. Now we stand at a crossroads. The storm is gathering once again, but this time we have the ability to change the course. The verdict is clear. We have the power to shape the future, but with great power comes great responsibility. The question is, what will we do with it? We've seen what happens when a world of giants is toppled. Will we let history repeat itself? Or will we make a change that saves us all? The choice is ours. Imagine a world where the air is thick with history, where the shadows of giants once walked across the earth, their footsteps shaking the ground beneath them. These creatures, larger than anything we could imagine, once ruled the world with unstoppable power and sheer presence. But in the blink of an eye, they were gone, erased, vanished into the echoes of time. What happened to them? How did the towering giants of the past, the woolly mammoths and the massive apes like Gigantopithecus, disappear? Was it the changing of the world around them, or was it the unstoppable force of humankind, with our intellect and insatiable hunger for control, that wiped them off the face of the earth? The giant's story is not just a tale of extinction, it's a warning, a message from the past that's echoing into the present. Their fall wasn't an accident. It wasn't a random series of events. It was the perfect storm. The earth, once cold and frozen, began to warm up, and the world that sustained these creatures transformed in a way they couldn't adapt to. Their environments shifted from vast, frozen tundras and dense forests to swamps and shrinking grasslands. Their world was literally melting away, and they couldn't catch up. And then came us, humankind. With our growing numbers, our tools, our ability to coordinate and strategize, we became a new kind of predator. The world of the giants, once free from any real threat, found itself in the presence of a force that was relentless. We hunted them, not out of necessity, but because we could. We claimed dominion over the earth, and in doing so, we pushed the giants to the edge of extinction. The tragic truth is, the giants didn't just disappear because of climate change. They disappeared because we became the final blow to their existence. The rapid shifts in climate weakened them. The changing world couldn't support them anymore. And then we came, hungry for power, and we hunted them down. It was the ultimate irony. The very creatures that had once ruled the earth were now at the mercy of a species they had never encountered before, one that could outthink them and outlast them. But here's the thing. Their fate isn't just their story. It's ours too. We are living through a time when the forces that took down the giants are at work again. We are facing climate change at a speed far faster than they ever did. The planet is warming at an alarming rate, and the ecosystems we depend on are starting to shift in ways we can't control. The Earth is changing, and we're responsible for much of it. Just like the giants before us, we are pushing our environment to the brink. We are not immune to the forces that wiped out these mighty creatures. What will happen if we don't learn from the mistakes of the past? Will we too find ourselves caught in the middle of a world that's changing faster than we can adapt? Will we become just another cautionary tale in the long history of life on Earth? But there's hope. There's always hope. The same power that led to the fall of the giants is the power we have within us. We have the power to change the course of history. We have the power to stop the destruction of our planet, to protect the ecosystems that sustain life, and to ensure that future generations don't have to face the same fate as the giants. If you're feeling moved by the giant's story, if this video has touched your heart in some way, I invite you to consider supporting this channel, supporting the message of hope and healing that we are trying to spread. Your support helps me continue making videos like this, sharing God's word, spreading knowledge, and shining a light in the darkness. No contribution is too small. If you feel this video has brought value to your life, to your soul, consider hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing this message with others. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can ensure that the story of the giants doesn't fade away, but instead becomes a lesson that guides us toward a better future. And if you're moved to leave a comment, share your thoughts. Tell me what the story of the giants means to you. How do you think we can change the course of our future? I truly believe that together we can create a world where the giants' fall never happens again, a world where we stand strong, united, learning from the past and building a brighter, sustainable future for all. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for your time, your energy, and your support. You're a part of something bigger than just watching a video. You're a part of the movement toward change, toward healing, toward a better tomorrow. And for that, I am eternally grateful.